All right, we're here today to present our project Briefly. Briefly is a news summarization application that seeks to produce personalized summaries that are tailored to a user's pre-existing knowledge. So that means that if you know a lot about the topic of an article, your summary that you see should contain specific details that are relevant to you. But if you're not familiar with the topic of an article, then you should see a summary which is more general and has a lot more background context to help you understand. So our hope is that users using Briefly will be able to consume more news faster and with more comfort. The inputs and outputs to our system are fairly straightforward. You need the full text article that's going to be summarized. And you also need a set of key phrases that describe your interests or what you already know about. With those two components, the system can then produce a personalized summary. We wanted to create 4 test personas that would embody 4 different people with different interests. So we have a sports enthusiast, someone who's into entertainment, politics, and technology. To generate those personas, we needed to collect sets of keywords that would define those personas. So for example, the sports persona, we're using keywords like NFL, MLB, LeBron James, Shohei Ohtani. These are sports leagues, sports athletes, icons that are going to define what the sports enthusiast is interested in. We also needed to collect sets of articles. So we had 10 general interest articles. These are articles that none of the personas would really know anything about. And we also collected articles that were specific to the personas, 10 sports articles, 10 entertainment articles, and so on. This is the system architecture overview. We start with our inputs at the top. We have the full text news article, and we also have the keywords describing the interests. These each go into different agents. We'll start with the personalization agent, receives that list of keywords, and it's going to generate a completely fictional person with a name, an age, a location, sometimes political leanings. But what we do know is that those keyword interests that we put in, it knows a lot about those components. The summarization agent is fairly straightforward. We ask it to produce a 3-sentence summary of the article, and it creates, first off, the zero-shot summary, which is not tailored at all yet. It passes that summary to the personalization agent, which has a fairly complex prompt, but what it comes down to is it's asking, do I know a lot about this topic? And there are 2 answers there. If the answer is yes, then we ask the personalization agent to rewrite the summary, but give us more complex details about some aspect of the article. If the answer is no, then we ask the summarization agent to rewrite the summary, but give us broader context, more background about something from the article. And so this establishes a feedback loop where you can then, the summarization agent takes that feedback into account, generates a new summary, and we go back for another round of feedback. This is a hyperparameter that we had to tune, but we sort of ended up around 3 fine-tuned summaries gave us the best results. We pass that batch of summaries into an arbiter agent, and its job is simply to ensure that the summaries are still accurate according to the article. If the answer is no, something's gone wrong, and we have to stop and start over. But more often than not, the answer is yes, and we get our final output, which is a personalized article that is tailored to the user's key interests and background knowledge.
So this is a rubric that we use to evaluate our refined summaries, and we're comparing them to the zero-shot summary. And so for a summary to be good, it has to be more generic when it's a topic they're not familiar with, and it has to be detailed and specific when it's a topic that the user is familiar with. So this is an example article from the recent World Series, and on the left is a non-sports fan, and on the right is a sports fan. And so we can see that the first sentence is the same because it is the same article, but we can see in the blue, for the sports fan, it adds more details about the actual game because the sports fan would be interested in it was a comeback or there was fatigue. And then we can see in the green and the yellow, that's generalized things such as key errors end up being specific. They add baseball terms and specific stats like 12 RBIs. So this is a summary of all the results that we had for the 4 different personas, and we did a subset of 10 off and 10 on persona articles, and we can see that the majority of them are better than the zero-shot articles, zero-shot summary, and a fifth of them are similar to the zero-shot summary. And so one reason why the zero-shot summary is sufficient or is similar is because when we have really simple articles, it's really hard to find extra details to be specific about. And especially because we have the arbiter agent, we need to ensure that the truth is preserved, so we can't make up facts. This has to be from the original article. Something we noticed when we were prompt engineering, especially the personalization agent, is that when we added more freedom and less guardrails, we got better results. And that really shows that creativity is very valued in the personalization agent for the feedback. And in that line of thinking, higher temperature also has improved our personalization agent. We were thinking of covering unbiased news, but then the two kind of points came up, and one is that GPT already covers this. It already debiases in its prompts. So the summary that we get from the left, from the Toronto Sun, it was a rabid wolf pack. It's a very loaded language. But then when we have just the zero-shot summary on its own, it's already a group of 8 young girls, which is very objective. So it already addresses this. And then the second thing is inflammatory bias like this. It's really easy to address, but subtle bias where you omit certain facts, it's hard to address. So in the future, we think that we should clarify our definition of bias with measurable metrics and earlier on, and that would have helped us refine on this bias thing. And thank you for listening, and that was our presentation.